Yes, fine.
Okay, my name is Andrew Ledbetter and I'm one of the officers that advises and supports members of Cheshire Fire Authority. Everyone is connected using Skype. We've got one person on the telephone and we've got slightly different levels of broadband connections. So some people will use camera and some people won't. We will monitor the connections throughout the meeting. I've got colleagues helping with that, and we will make sure, excuse me, that the broadcast functions throughout. The meeting's been conducted in accordance with the remote meeting rules, which can be found on the Fire Services website. I'll now hand over to Councillor Phil Harris, who is the Chair of the Performance and Overview Committee.
Morning. For those listening and watching our meeting, I am Councillor Phil Harris. I'm Chair of the Performance and Overview Committee for 2020-2021. I'll just now take us through the agenda. For the benefit of anyone listening and watching the meeting, I should mention a few pieces of housekeeping. Members of the committee are all at different locations. Some officers are in one location and, as you've heard, intend to make sure that members stay connected to the meeting and that it continues to be broadcast. If a member is disconnected from the meeting, then the meeting will be paused for a short time to allow the connection to be re-established. However, the meeting can continue even if not all members are connected, provided that certain rules aren't breached. Because I'm not in the same room as the officers, I will from time to time ask them to confirm things to me, such as members who have indicated they wish to speak on an item and whether everyone remains connected to the meeting. Members will use the chat function in Skype if they wish to speak, unless they're on a phone and the Skype isn't functioning. And they use it for any other votes that are necessary. Officers and members should make sure that they use their name before speaking so that people know who's saying what. We're all familiar with one another, but perhaps other people aren't. Officers and members should also make it clear which page, paragraph, etc. they're concerned with if they're referring to a document. We'll do our best to make the meeting as clear as possible. So you'll find it much easier to understand if you're referring to the agenda pack. And just to remind members that the meeting is being recorded. Apologies for absence. Did we get a roll call just before the meeting started? Can officers please confirm attendance at the meeting?
Yes.
Andrew Ledbetter to confirm attendees, members plus independent member.
So I can confirm that all members are in attendance. So that is, I'll just run through them. Councillor Norman Wright, Councillor Rosia Daniels, Councillor Phil Harris, obviously, Councillor Les Morgan, Councillor Gina Lewis, Councillor Jonathan Parry, Councillor Peter Wheeler, and Councillor James Nicholas. And as you've just said, independent non-elected member Derek Barnes is also attending.
Hey.
Full house.
Okay. Good. Declaration of members' interests. Can members please indicate whether they have any declarations of interest to make in respect of any items on the agenda? Have any members indicated that they wish to speak as well? Andrew Ledbetter.
No one has indicated.
Any declarations of interest? Okay, I'll take that silence as agreeing. Move on to minutes of Performance and Overview Committee, agenda item 1D. These can be found on pages 1 to 6 inclusive. Are members happy to accept them?
I'll move them if nobody else wants to. Councillor Peter Wheeler.
Gina Lewis, seconded.
Okay. Okay, so they're passed. I've got no indication that people are indicating otherwise. I'll take it they're confirmed as a correct record and that my signature can be added to them. That agreed? Okay. Right. Moving on to agenda item 2, performance report quarter 4, 2019-2020. Move to On pages 7 to 46, Lee Shears will present this item. Lee? Is Lee Shears there? I've got Lee Shears down as presenting the quarter 4 performance report.
Yeah, morning Chair, morning members. Sorry, I didn't turn my microphone on. So I'm Lee Shears, Head of Protection and Organisational Performance, presenting the paper, as you say, agenda item 2 in your pack, starting on page 7. So the paper details the service's quarter 4 and consequently year-end performance for the year 2019-2020. I intend to follow the usual protocol and focus mainly on those indicators where performance is not to the expected standard or has changed since the last quarter. Obviously, if members have got any questions or comments about any other indicators that I don't touch on, then obviously please ask. Also, whilst I am responsible for this report and this paper, I might ask colleagues to comment on certain indicators that they've got responsibility for, or ask other colleagues to answer some of your questions. So if I could first ask you to refer to page 10 in your pack, where you'll see the corporate scorecard and the range of performance indicators. So members will note this provides a summary position all on one page of each of the indicators, and you'll see that predominantly performance is good. The majority of indicators are showing green for quarter 4 performance and year end, as well as when compared to the previous or the same period in the previous performance year. You will also see that there are 3 red indicators and 2 amber indicators, which is where I'm going to focus most of this presentation. So if members could now turn to page 11 and the deaths in primary fires indicator. So members will see that sadly in quarter 4, there were 4 fatalities in primary fires, which brings the yearly total to 6. Now in quarter 4, these 4 fatalities were the result of 3 incidents. 1 incident was a double fatality incident. Now, as you can see from the graph on page 11, each of these 6 fires was an accidental dwelling fire, and the majority of the 6 involved the age of 65. Now, members should be aware that these fires are currently subject to coroner's inquest, which could rule that they're not technically fire deaths, depending on the official cause of death and how that is recorded. Now, we're aware that this seems like a likely outcome for 2 of these particular incidents, but I am awaiting official confirmation. Now, that said, we're still completing full detailed fatal fire reviews and full fatal fire investigations, and ensuring any lessons are learned where necessary from any of these incidents. So if I could now ask you to skip forward, please, in your packs to page 27 and the automatic fire alarms in non-domestic premises target. So you'll note from the statistics that performance in quarter 4 has led to this indicator being over target for the 3rd quarter in succession. And the indicator is red and was previously red in the previous quarter. So members will know we've got, as a service, we have a strict policy on attending false alarms, and we only attend certain premises which are exempted from the policy, and they are predominantly sleeping risk premises. It's an increase in single activations from these exempted premises, which has led to us being over target rather than repeat offenders. Now, members will see from the graph on page 27 that levels of false alarms remain extremely low since the introduction of the policy 3 years ago. And compared to the previous year of 2016-17, each of those 3 years has seen 50% fewer false alarms, at least 50%. Now, it's likely that due to the way the policy is now, that we'll see minor fluctuations year on year in the numbers of false alarms, but they will remain historically low. Now, we have discussed previous committee meetings that to achieve any further reductions would require another step change in the policy, and the only thing we could possibly do would be non-attendance at those exempted premises as well. And members have indicated that they're not keen on this approach. So if I could now ask you to turn to page 30 and the platinum address success rate, please. So members will see from the report, and on page 29, you'll see that the service has performed well against its safe and well delivery target again, but we didn't achieve the platinum address target of 65%. And you'll see from the table at the top of the page that this is predominantly down to the Q4 outturn. We only achieved 42% in Q4, and in large part this was due to the impact of the C-19 pandemic in March and our change to our new Sapphire database, both of which impacted on our ability to achieve that target. Moving to page 32, please, and fire safety audits in non-domestic premises. Members will see that performance against this target has improved this year by comparison to last year. We've actually achieved an additional 265 audits in this year, and it would have been higher still had C-19 not interrupted delivery of audits in March of the year. So that's meant the indicator is now amber for this year, and last year we were red and performance was significantly worse. Now, a lot of effort has been put into staff recruitment and staff development in order to achieve this increase, and it's envisaged our ability to deliver more audits will continue as we move forward and once we return to normality following the pandemic. If we can move to page 37 now and on-call availability. This is supported by a summary table and some additional data in Appendix 3 on page 45 of your packs. I'd like to ask Neil Griffiths, my colleague, to talk through the performance for this indicator.
Good morning, members. My name is Neil Griffiths. I'm the Head of Service Delivery, and I'm going to talk to you about the on-call availability on page 37. Members will note that there are three categories of on-call: nucleus, primary on-call and secondary on-call. And the two areas I'm going to focus on are the primary and secondary on-call, where the performance hasn't met the target. If I can draw your attention to the top of the page, members, you'll see a slight upturn in Q4 where we achieved a 74% availability. It must be noted that the COVID-19 pandemic had an influence on the last 2 weeks of March, where we've seen an increase in availability across the on-call duty system. However, I would also draw members' attention that that is the second consecutive rise in the last 2 quarters, and also represents an 11% rise from the end of the first quarter to the end of the fourth quarter in that time frame. As we know, COVID-19 has had an impact across everybody's lives, but what it has represented within the on-call duty system, that we've seen an increase in people being able to work from home, which has enabled them to become more available to make the fire appliance available for longer periods. So we have taken the opportunity within this part of the report to note the achievements of the on-call program team, which has been in existence for just over 12 months. And the on-call program team are focused on recruitment, training and retention of our on-call firefighters. Clearly, during the pandemic, this was paused temporarily, but I am pleased to report that we have now started to reinvigorate the recruitment processes, and we now have on-call firefighters back in training to supplement our on-call stations. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks for that. I'll take the speakers in the order and that they've come up, and then have all their questions or comments dealt with by officers at the end. which is, we're at that point now. So far, I've got three messages there. Andrew, can you just confirm they're just the three messages and the requests to speak, and there's no one on the phone or anything that's asked to speak?
So we've got currently Councillor Gina Lewis and Councillor James Nicholas have indicated, and we just need to check whether Derek Barnett also needs to ask any questions.
Right, okay. Everyone clear on that then? I've got Gina Lewis asking a question about page 27. So officers, can you respond to the question when it's given? Okay. And the next person I'll take is James Nicholas after Gina.
Hello.
Yeah, can hear you.
Yep. Obviously, during the COVID pandemic, we've in Cheshire West in particular, we've actually housed most of the homeless and rough sleepers in local hotels. This spike that we've had, has that been as a result of the fact that we've got more homeless people living in accommodation, which perhaps they're not used to?
Okay, thank you for that, Gina, and I'll take the question from James Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Councillor James Nicholas. My question is it's on page 23, and it's the first bullet point. It says there are a number of drug-related arson incidents. I'm just wondering if this is a new phenomena. I'm sure it's not new, but is it new because of is it related to COVID perhaps, and what measures are being taken to do anything about it? And then a little bit further down, also on page 23, for the bullet point of Cheshire East, it says 3 perpetrators of deliberate fires have been identified and duly charged. Can you give us any more information about that, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, James. Is there anybody else? Okay, can the officers respond to those 2 questions, please?
Yeah, morning, Phil. Morning, members. It's Shears again. In response to Gina's question about the rough sleepers and the false alarms, there's no indication that or no trends to show that it is connected to that. They're mostly, as I say, single activations in multiple premises rather than any trend or any repeat offenders. And we've been working. My team have been working with all of the premises where there are rough sleepers and that have been converted for different uses to ensure that they're safe and there are no impacts. So there's no indication that that's the case, Gina. I'll try and answer the other questions as well from page 23. So the first one about the drug-related incidents. It's the work that we do with our partners, particularly police and local authorities, that identifies and tackles generally antisocial behaviour and other deliberate fire setting behaviour. So we continue obviously to work with the police, and it's working with those 2 agencies in particular that is being done to improve performance in that area. And a lot of it is vehicle-related fires. You'll note that there are a number of vehicle-related fires on the deliberate detail within the deliberate fire health report, particularly mopeds and motorcycles, and that does have some links to drugs and distribution of drugs. So we'll continue to work with police partners primarily in dealing with that. And then the question about the perpetrators of the deliberate fires. Obviously, all deliberate fires are investigated by either operational incident commanders or specialist fire investigators. So we work very hard to try to identify culprits or people who set deliberate fires. We don't tend to put individual names and details in the report because they can be identified potentially that way. But it was just we feel it's necessary to try to reassure members, obviously, that we are trying to reduce deliberate fires and identify those who set them, which is why we try to just show where we've had some success. I think one thing probably to note is that sometimes there's a time lag between an incident and the fire investigation and the case going through the courts, and it can actually be quite long. So it's quite difficult to say that a fire within, say, Q3 or Q4 has been solved and the court case has been concluded within that period. So those 3 perpetrators may not have actually been from fires within Q4, but in earlier performance periods within the year. So I think that's the 3 questions. Hopefully that answers the questions, but I'm happy to take any follow-up.
No, you're okay.
Okay. Does anyone wish to ask anything further? Anyone want to ask anything further? No? Okay. I believe we're able to be able to note the report and move to the next item. I'll pause for 10 seconds in case any member disagrees. Please indicate that you wish to speak, or if you're on the phone, please speak up and I'll invite you to speak. Otherwise, once the 10 seconds have elapsed without any indication, we'll move on to the next item. Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to the next item then. Move to item 3, Programme Report Q4 2019-2020. You find these on pages 47 to 60. Mark Cashin will present this item. Mark, it's okay to...
Yeah, there was, apologies, Chair, there was just a delay with the microphone. It seems to need to be pressed about 5 times. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me,
yes.
Chair? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, members. I'll briefly go through the service's current programme report, and as you say, it begins on page 47. And as usual, I don't intend to go through every single item, but I will pick out those that need some more information. I'm also clearly very happy to answer any questions on any programme, whether I have discussed them or not. Normally, during the course of the report, I would refer to other officers on key programmes, for example, such as around the construction programmes, during the course of my commentary and invite them in to speak. I think this is a bit more difficult doing it over Skype, so if I need to do that, I'll do it at the end. And as it stands, I'll probably only ask Andrew Ledbetter as to whether or not I've covered the detail that he would want me to on the construction programmes. I should say also that the report is, as ever, backward looking, but in this case very backward looking because of the timescales. As paragraph 4 on page 47 of the report says, it would normally only cover information between January and March. The time lag between meetings due to COVID means that some of this information is now very dated, and therefore the programmes have been updated to information that is far more current. I should also say that the next time this report comes, it will have been updated again with all the new programmes that have been agreed within the new IRMP. So, members, if I can take you to the actual detail, one of the longest standing programmes on the programme board list is the whole service review on pages 49 and 50. And as the report says, the agreement of the new IRMP now concludes this work, and this programme will now move to close down, with separate programmes being developed that have been agreed in the new RMP, and they will be reviewed at future meetings. Page 51 shows blue light collaboration as amber. And the reality is, the reason for this is it's primarily due to waiting for the underlease at Clements Hay to be signed off. Both fire and police are in agreement and have done all the work that they need to do, and we're waiting for the PFI company to sign off the underlease. And whilst we are pushing on this issue, it's not something that we can control, and that's why it's indicating that it's amber at the moment. I want to touch briefly on some of the progress of work at Chester Fire Station, which is on page 52, and also the training centre on pages 54 and 55. I've got to say these are actually a really good news story, because despite the impact of COVID, as the reports indicate, both of the programmes are progressing really well, with a relatively short delays considering the circumstances. And this is due to the mitigating activity that was agreed with the builders, allowing much of the building work to continue during the past few months. And as you can see from the reports, the main issues that caused any delays have actually been around the supply chain rather than the building work. These issues have now been resolved, and both of the projects are progressing well. And indeed, when circumstances allow, I would very much like members in some form of socially distanced way to come and look at the training centre actually before it's finished construction. And I think we can arrange those visits. I know I've said that in emails to you in the past, but it is impressive, and I think it would be useful for you to have a tour. So if we can arrange that in a safe way, we will do so. Further on the report, you can see that Crewe Fire Station is mentioned on page 53, and there have been some delays, but those delays have been essential in finding solutions to remove some really quite substantial costs that would have been materialised, like the temporary fire station. And we think that we have done that now, and that work is now progressing. We'll go through London stations and we'll return here for greater scrutiny. Page 55 talks about the review of the operational training group. Now, COVID has affected this work, and all I've really got to say on it is that the new manager has been appointed. A new manager has been appointed on temporary promotion. One of his first tasks will be to reinvigorate this work, and it is really important because we clearly want to maximise our ability to use the new training centre as and when it's finished. Finally, members, page 58 talks about the review of the protection department. Now, this work has been deliberately slowed to see what practical implementation requirements are going to be given to us as a result of the Hackett review. And also, as well, we've been keeping a watching brief on the Grenfell inquiry, and there has been quite a bit of conversation with government on related issues recently. And I think it's proven that this work has been worth slowing this work, because a number of new funding sources have been provided to the service as a result of ongoing issues. And those funding sources are now being incorporated into the review and the structures of the department going forward, and it will come back here at a later date with that updated information. One of the things I didn't mention, members, was the modernisation work, which has also been going really well throughout the past few months, with lots of controls in place, and it's required both the builders and also our staff to work really quite carefully together, and it's been difficult on occasions for everybody, but actually, again, I think it's really positive, the progress that's been made, and the feedback that we're getting from staff around those projects is hugely positive. Now, I know that the circumstances don't really allow at the moment, but when the circumstances change, I'm really keen for members to at least visit the local stations that have been through the modernisation programme and to engage with their staff about it. I just want to check with Andrew whether I have covered everything from a build perspective or whether he wants to say anything, and then I'll come to you for questions. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I don't think I do. I think we're in a good place, and we are motoring faster than certainly some sites that we know around the county. So we're quite pleased with progress at the moment.
Okay, members, that's a brief summary of the report. As I said, I'll take questions on anything that I've discussed or anything that I've not as well within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Have any members indicated they wish to speak, and as anyone on the phone should also speak up, obviously. Andrew? Has anyone indicated yet?
No one has indicated.
I can't see anyone on chat anyway.
No one has.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone want to ask anything further? No? Okay. I believe that we're able to note the report and move to the next item then, but I will pause for 10 seconds in case any member disagrees. Please indicate that you wish to speak, or if you are on the phone, please speak up and I will invite you to speak. Okay, so I'll just wait 10 seconds. Okay, I hope everything's working out there. The 10 seconds has elapsed, so we'll move on to the next item. Don't forget, if anything happens with your your online speaker, you can use the chat function to contact the officers or myself to let us know. I'll move to agenda item 4, internal audit progress report, Q4 2019-20. You can find this on pages 60 to 71. Anne-Marie Harrop from MIAA will present this agenda item. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great.
Yep, can hear loud and clear.
So I'm just going to present the first of 2 papers, which is our usual progress report for members. And essentially this closes down the work for last year's audit plan for 2019-20. The plan is now complete, and those remaining final 2 pieces of work. First one was around collaboration and partnership arrangements. And for this piece of work, we looked at the Fire and Rescue Indemnity Company, or FRIC. We're happy to report that this received a substantial level of assurance, and we made 2 medium level recommendations and 2 low. So I'll work on the basis that members have all read the reports and just focus on the recommendations that were made. The first one was around really strengthening the governance arrangements and making sure that Cheshire Fire had a place on the board, and therefore Alex Waller has agreed to become a director for the FRIC partnership collaboration. And the other recommendation also to strengthen governance was around the SMT receiving more regular and more formal assurances in respect of FRIC on a regular basis, and I'm happy to report that those both been taken forward. 2 low-level recommendations around the partnership policy and its application were made, and also making sure that the annual terms of reference were reviewed. So I'll pause there in case anybody has any questions.
Okay, I'll take the have any members indicated they wish to speak, Andrew, or anyone on the phone?
No, no one has.
Okay.
Okay,
do you want to continue then?
Yeah, thank you. So the final piece of work from our 2019-20 audit plan was a piece of work on the HMICFRS inspection improvement plan. And essentially what we did in this piece of work was we looked at the complete your action plan, essentially, and we looked to ensure that the completed actions, there was robust evidence behind to support that that rating of completion. And also we looked at a number of work in progress also to make sure that things were progressing as they should. Part of this review, we also visited 2 sites and triangulated the evidence through interviews with a number of staff on the ground. So again, we're happy to report that of the 6 actions that we looked at that were completed, there was sufficient evidence to corroborate that statement and that action being completed. And also on the open actions, we also found lots of evidence of work in progress and good work to support the implementation of the action plan. So again, that just wraps up the work for last year, and the plan is now complete. The rest of the document just takes you through the work that was undertaken for the year. Did you take any questions?
Okay, I've not got any questions at the moment indicated. Are there any questions? No? Okay, that's good. Good report, obviously. All the general performance indicators are green, and there's no critical or high risk recommendations there. So see probably why we're not getting questions. Right. As per the other agenda items, members, does anyone wish to ask anything further? No? Okay. So I believe we're able to note the report and move to the next agenda item, but I'll pause for 10 seconds in case any member disagrees. Please indicate that you wish to speak, or if you're on the phone, please speak up and I'll invite you to speak. Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to the next agenda item. Move to agenda item 5, Internal Audit Annual Report and Head of Internal Audit Opinion 2019-20, pages 75 to 88 in your agenda pack. Anne-Marie Harrop to present the item again. Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the Director of Internal Audit opinion is to contribute to the assurances available to both the accountable officer and the authority, and it also supports your assessment of your systems of internal control. We are required to bring this annual opinion to you as part of the public sector internal audit standards. So the document just talks through how we've come to our overall opinion, which is a substantial assurance, which essentially means that there are good systems of internal control designed to meet the system objectives, and the controls are generally being applied consistently throughout the organisation. The document just talks through how we've come to our opinion, which is essentially the work that we've undertaken throughout the year and the organisation's response to our internal audit recommendations and the extent to which they've been implemented. The document also talks through the work that we've undertaken, the number of audits and the recommendations that have been raised throughout the year. It also talks through how we provide a quality service to you at section 6 and how we are compliant as an organisation with the internal audit standards for the public sector as a whole. And then just some assurances as well around our organisation and our service to you as your auditors in terms of our accreditations and quality standards. So again, I think that's a fantastic result for the year, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. Have any members indicated they wish to speak, or do they want to do so now? Anyone on the phone should also speak up. Andrew, can you just confirm no questions requested?
No questions at all at the moment.
Okay. Okay, I'll take it that there's no questions at the moment. If that's the case, I believe we're able to note the report and move on to the next item. But again, I'll pause for 10 seconds in case any member disagrees. Please indicate that you wish to speak, or if you're on the phone, please speak up and I'll invite you to speak. Okay, give me 10 seconds. Okay, move on to agenda item 6, Unitary Performance Group's Annual Report 2019-20, pages 89 to 100. Neil Griffiths will present this item. Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. The UPG report is an annual report, and as members are aware, the service operates across the 4 unitary authorities of Cheshire East, Cheshire West and Chester, Holston and Warrington. And within those areas, we hold regular UPG meetings. These meetings provide the opportunity for members to engage with our officers from across the service, from service delivery, prevention and protection teams, to allow you to scrutinise performance at a local level. The other part of the UPG meeting is to also allocate funding where we can improve performance and outcomes for communities. And this report is a summary document of all of the initiatives that were implemented through the UPG process during that particular period. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, usual time delay there is on the microphone. Thank you, Neil. I've got a question from James Nicholas indicated. I'll take him first. James.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you very much. My question is just on page 91. It's actually the first one, the fact that £17,590 was spent. Was that successful? Was that considered to be a good investment?
Thank you, Councillor. So the Camerata performance is something that the service has been engaged with over a number of years, and the amount of school children that attend those performances, during especially the connection that we have with the national campaign around burns awareness, it's considered that it's something that the service have considered a wise investment over the years. Obviously, this is a decision for local members to make through the UPG process, and clearly those discussions take place, and over the years that's been considered a wise investment, and it's something that we can educate and inform children of the dangers around burns.
Okay, thank you.
Gina, were you asking a question?
Yes, please. It's page 93, the donation that was made towards the extension cables. Members may not be aware, but we had a serious fire in Winsford. Family were made homeless as a consequence of a faulty, I believe, charging connection. I'm just wondering whether, certainly as far as the extension leads are concerned, we ought to be extending that and looking at the way in which computer chargers are being sold at the moment, which are not as good as they should be. And I'm just wondering how we can actually perhaps prevent the kind of situation that we had here in Winsford. As I say, the family was made homeless, but fortunately they were rehoused quite quickly. But their next door neighbour, who owned their property, at the moment there is no roof on this semi-detached property, and they are having to be elsewhere until their insurers agree to replacement. And I say, for so much damage to be caused by a charger, I'm just wondering whether we could do something sort of Cheshire-wide with regard to the safety of some of these laptop chargers. I think those of us who went to Safety Central and saw what happens when a laptop's left on a bed that's charging, it really, it happened here. And I just wonder whether we can do something about that.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I think that's, sorry, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I think it's an observation that I think we all have some cognizance with. Really, it's something that we cover a great deal on our social media channels. So through Twitter and Facebook, there's a constant reference to the dangers of laptop chargers, and obviously we've got key links in with our local authorities. It's particularly the trading standards areas of those local authorities where we do keep an eye on what's going on in terms of what's being sold around the county. But you're quite right to highlight it. Those laptop chargers, particularly wherever they're left on bedding, can be dangerous, and it's obviously something we highlight regularly.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to ask anything or add anything? No? Okay. I believe that we're able to note the report and move to the next item, but I'll pause for 10 seconds again. Please indicate if you wish to speak, or if you're on the phone, please speak up and I'll invite you to speak. Okay. Okay, thank you for that, members. Can we move on to the next item, which is item 7, Training Performance Annual Report 2019-20. You can find this on pages 101 to 110 of your agenda pack. Steve Barnes will present this item. Steve? Mr. Barnes, sorry.
Oh, no? Okay, do apologise. Okay, good morning, members. I'm Steve Barnes, Head of Operational Policy Insurance, and today we're going to go through the report for training for the period of 2019-2020. Can I draw your attention, please, members, to page 103, which is the dashboard. And like other of my colleagues, particularly going to focus on the red, unfortunately on there. I'll put into context as to why in a second. But again, happy to take any questions about any areas of the training performance for that period. What is important to note, members, is as we're all aware, we're investing heavily in a training facility here at Sadler Road. And as such, all our training resources and facilities have been moved around the county to fire stations and remote locations. So again, we are maintaining that high standards of service delivery to our colleagues on the operational front. So the first red I'd like to draw attention to, please, is the swift water validation located towards the bottom, where unfortunately 38 members of our staff have failed to maintain that competence in all areas of that technical ability. This is because we use an external provider, which is over at Llangollen, where we tend to do our water rescue training during the periods of Q3 and Q4 because the water levels are the required standard to test them to the full extent. Unfortunately, during the early parts of 2020, particularly February, we cancelled a few courses due to the water levels being too dangerous, and the whole stretch of water which us and many other fire rescue services use was closed for safety concerns. The knock-on effect from that is some of our skills were lost, but again, we maintained some locally by using some of our water supplies around us. That said, at the earliest opportunity, the courses have been earmarked for the end of August and September of this year to get those people back up to speed and again to perform that important and crucial element to their role. Moving on, we have also have a good news and bad news story from this red, in particular for the Watch Manager Day 2. At the moment, we use Frodsham. The state-of-the-art facilities we had here at Sadler Road have since been knocked down, and greater state-of-the-art facilities have been built. Because Frodsham has got limited capability, we have struggled to maintain the similar sort of footfall coming through that particular department over a sustained basis. That said, on a positive, we are doing lots more people regards to getting people ready to become commanders of the future. So more people are stepping forward to be in charge of fire engines, which is a positive thing, so we can actually develop people as and when the service needs those capabilities and those people to sit in front of the fire engine and be in charge. Finally, like some of the other training elements, we are affected by COVID-19 like every element of the service and across the UK, where the SMMI courses, which are station managing incident days, where we tend to select a high-risk site around the county, where the morning is dedicated to training of our managers and the afternoon is then focuses on the risks associated with that site. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19 and lockdown which come about, those sites were closed for us to use. On the basis of that, we obviously couldn't fulfil the training in that particular location, so there was an impact. Again, we have plans in place as soon as we start to turn things back on and start to operate an element of normality, is those courses will pick back up again and those people will be reassigned to further courses to maintain their operational competence and development. That's it for me. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Okay, has anyone got any questions? I haven't got any indicated. Andrew Ledbetter, could you confirm whether or not anything's come through to you?
No questions.
Okay,
Chair,
I'll just leave it a couple of seconds, because we're not in a rush here.
Chair, can I just ask a question? It's Gina Lewis.
Yeah, fine.
It's not so much a question as a comment. I did find it difficult to actually carry forward all of the acronyms in this report, and there are a tremendous number of them. Is it possible, please, for future reference to actually at least make sure that the headings are not acronyms?
Yes, thank you for that, Gina. Apologies for that. It's one of the, unfortunately, things we tend to do quite a lot, but in future we'll provide more clarity. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any others? Okay, thanks again, Steve, for another very good report. I believe that we're able to note the report and move to the next item, but I'll pause for 10 seconds in case any member disagrees as previously. Okay, I'll move on to the next item, which is move on to agenda item 8, which is the Fire Service Inspection Action Plan, Inspectorate Action Plan, pages 1111 to 128. Lee Shears will present this item. Lee.
Thanks, Chair. Morning again, members. So yeah, in front of you there on page 111, as the Chair has said, is the paper regarding the action plan that was developed in response to our inspection report from HMICFRS. So this is the update on progress following the previous progress report given to you in Q2 of the year, and we give you an update every 6 months. So just to refresh members, our inspection report had 9 areas for improvement within it. and we developed our action plan to address each one of those areas for improvement. And the report that we present to you today is done in a health report style, so it's consistent with other reports that we present to members. Now, since the last update to you in Q2, all of the round one inspections of the 45 fire and rescue services across England have been completed. All the reports have been published, and the State of the Nation report has also been published. So all of that information is now available publicly. Now, the health report in relation to our action plan begins on page 113 in your packs. And you'll note that there are some greyed out boxes within those health reports. They indicate the actions that are considered now to be completed. And members will see the progress against each of the actions throughout the action plan. And you will note that there is quite a lot of greyed out boxes and quite a lot of areas which have now been completed. Now, there is quite a lot of detail within that action plan against progress. And I don't intend to take members through those actions or those health reports page by page. I think it is worth noting that the staff survey last year recognised improvements in most areas, and a lot of those improvements are linked to the efforts which have been detailed within this action plan. And this is particularly relevant to the people sections, where we've made some significant efforts to improve. And the staff engagement forum, the feedback responses, and the visibility of managers and SMT is having a significant effect on that. Now, the C-19 pandemic, as has been mentioned a few times in the committee today, has had an impact on the delivery against this action plan as well. And it has delayed the completion of some of the actions, but it's also helped us move other things forward. And the one I would probably like to bring to your attention is action number 1 on page 124, which refers to us having suitable technology to allow two-way communication. And I think today's meeting is a prime example of some of the steps that we've taken to move this forward. But we've now got Skype capability, video conference capability in all of our fire stations. We've got agile working laptops, tablets with the vast majority of our staff, which enables us to communicate with all teams and all members of staff quite easily and on a routine basis now, rather than as kind of on an extraordinary basis. So that's been a real positive. And with that in mind, I think the next time that you see this plan in Q2 of the current performance year, I expect the vast majority of actions will be closed, if not all of them, and we'll be seeking your approval to close the action plan. So that was all I was planning to say, really, on the action plan, unless anybody's got any questions for me on any parts of that.
Okay, I haven't got anyone indicating at the moment. Andrew, can you confirm from your end?
Yes, no one's indicated.
Okay, I've now got Gina Lewis indicating. Sorry, Gina.
Having difficulty unmuting. It's page 123. The point 8. The support agile working for all staff. Would they please explain the definition agile here? When I read that, I had the impression that whilst people were online, they were actually exercising, but I don't think that's what it means.
No, thanks, Gina. It's really referring to or expanding, I suppose, on the point I made a second ago. It's giving our staff the ability to work away from their office locations, and to have the technology and the capabilities available to them to do their normal job whilst they are away from their office locations. And obviously, at the minute, we've got the vast majority of our staff working away from their normal office locations because of the social distancing and C-19 restrictions. So we've invested heavily in technology, in laptops, in tablet computers, in databases, giving people the ability to log into work systems through a VPN connection so they can access all of their usual databases and everything that they need to be able to do the job to the best of their ability, whilst they're not actually within our offices. And I suppose as I was saying, one of the benefits, I suppose, of us all working from home is that it's enabled us to push forward with some of those capabilities. And our staff, so my staff in particular, the protection staff, are working very well from home with the hardware and the software that we've given them to do it. So agile working really is just about being able to work in various locations without any loss of capability, I would say.
Yeah. Can I follow that up with a question for the future?
You can, Gina, but I've just got to ask if anybody else has got any questions first.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Fine, Gina. Cool.
Obviously, most of the local authorities involved in Cheshire Fire and Rescue, the Cheshire Fire Authority, are also looking at agile working processes. Will we see a report in our next overview and performance about how that's being carried forward and the way in which staff are going to be deployed in future?
Officers to respond.
So I think the reality at the moment is that due to coronavirus, we're doing things differently to how we've previously done them. And we're doing some considerable work trying to figure out what the future might look like. I think that in future, offices will be different. They'll certainly be different for a good while anyway because of social distancing. But we are looking at some of the benefits of people working away from the office. We know that that's created some anxieties for staff because they're a bit remote and a bit isolated, but there's also been some considerable benefits for those people who don't have to travel 2 hours every day to work. And there's been massive environmental benefits. So I think the answer in the round at the moment is we don't entirely know where we're going to end up, but we are planning for it. And the good thing is that we've got the joint teams, the police support service teams that we work with. They're going through a similar process. And we've got the benefit of that knowledge and understanding. And I think we'll come out the other end with something that will suit most people. But it will be different. I don't think we can kid ourselves that we'll be going back to where we were previously, because that seems highly unlikely.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Andrew. And obviously, we don't know what the government's going to do again, because social distancing could go even smaller in the not too distant future, by all accounts. Right. I'll again take any other questions. No. Okay. I believe that we're able to note the report and move to the next item, but I'll pause for 10 seconds again in case any member disagrees. Okay, thank you, members. Let's move to the next agenda item then. Item 9, Prosecution's Annual Report 2019-20. You can find these on pages 129 to 132. Lee Shears to present the item again. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. So yeah, as the Chair says, this is our annual report updating members on our prosecution activity. I mentioned earlier during the performance update about the fire safety audits that my protection team perform, and each one of those audits has an outcome. Now, these outcomes range from anything as simple as verbal advice through to enforcement notices or prohibition notices where we close part or whole of a premises. And at the furthest, most severe end of the scale is prosecutions through the court system. Now, we have available to us offences which are triable in a magistrate's court or in a Crown Court, and the vast majority of our offences are indictable offences which are triable by or in a Crown Court. Now, prosecution is really a last resort for us as as an organisation, but it is a vital part of our enforcement toolbox. We've taken 26 cases to court over the last 11 years and won all of those cases with some significant fines and significant sentences. We also use what's called a simple caution, which members may know better as a formal caution. It's something that the police use, and we use a very similar process. And now you'll see from paragraph 7 within the paper that all of the costs that we recover are generally ring-fenced in a reserve for future prosecutions to pay our legal costs. That reserve is capped at £300,000, and as you can see, it's currently in good health, enabling us to take this work forward without fear of funding. If you turn to page 131 in the paper, you'll see that the authority only prosecuted one case in the previous year, which was the Foresters Arms in Tarporley. You'll see that this prosecution started with the premises having had a chimney fire. Now, any fire in a non-domestic premises results in a visit from one of our inspectors to determine whether there are any failings or any fire safety issues within that building, some of which may have led to the fire. That's what happened in this case. The visit led to us serving a prohibition notice on the premises and then preparing a case for court. The outcome in this case, as you can see, was a combination of fines, a suspended custodial sentence and a curfew order. But most importantly, we end up with a much safer building at the end for members of the Cheshire community to use. Alongside that, the department's also got 9 ongoing cases, all in various stages of investigation or court proceedings. So I envisage next year's report having more successful cases in it, subject to those being put into the court system in good time, because as you're probably aware, there is a significant delay in court activity. So some of our cases which are in the process at the moment are being adjourned and pushed back to a later date. So that was all I intended to cover today, members, on that paper. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, I've not got any questions indicated. Are there any? Gina Lewis?
Sorry
Yes.
again. It's the section on equality and diversity. The final sentence there said that the most high-risk premises has resulted in an increased enforcement action, but then it says they are frequently owned and operated by members of the BAME communities. Could we have a little bit more information on this? It does seem to sort of is it because of the sheer numbers of these premises that results in there being more, or is it something more than that?
So it relates to certain categories of premises generally, Gina, and it is a national. It's a national picture. So lots of fire services have found the same situation. So it generally relates to food and retail premises which have living accommodation incorporated into them. So flats above shops, flats above restaurants is predominantly where we have issues, just because the building isn't designed to be used in the way that it is. So quite often when we inspect these premises, we'll sometimes identify that they are not, they don't have the right protection facilities and fire safety features within them that we would expect for people to live and work in these premises. So it just sometimes looks a little bit disproportionate in terms of the whether they be Black, Asian or minority ethnic groups that are running these premises. So it does sometimes reflect in the equality and diversity information that we present, and all that information goes to the equality steering group, and we do numerous reports on it, and my team work with Benji Evans from the equality aspect to ensure that we're not treating any of the communities differently. based on their race or ethnic origin.
Yeah. Can I just follow that up, Lee? Is this a problem that perhaps when our licensing committees and our authorities are looking at these premises, they perhaps ought to examine what's happening upstairs, so to speak?
I think it's just an understanding, Gina, of what needs to be in place. So we work with the environmental health teams in the 4 authorities. It's just they don't always see things that my protection inspectors pick up, in the same way that my protection inspectors don't always see things that the environmental health officers would be keen on. So we do work together, we do try and share information, and we do get things from the local authority team sometimes when they see things which they're worried about, and vice versa. So we do that work. It's just they're not fire safety experts, and my team aren't environmental health experts, so we do miss things sometimes.
Yeah, thank you.
Sharing the workload always. Any other questions? Okay, Andrew, have you got anything?
No other questions.
I thought that, because it should be the same system, but I'd like to check. Okay, I'll move to the next report, but I'll pause for 10 seconds in case any member disagrees. So please indicate if you wish to speak, or if you're on the phone, please speak up and I'll invite you to speak. Once the 10 seconds has elapsed without any indication, we'll move on to the agenda item if that's the case. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next item. Move on to item 10, Risk Management Board Annual Report 2018-2019, pages 133 to 140. Louise Wills will present this item. Louise?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Louise Willis. I'm the Planning, Performance and Risk Manager within Joint Corporate Services, which includes coordination of risk management and the internal audit plan for Cheshire Fire and Rescue Services. The report before you is a retrospective report of the work that's been undertaken and progressed under the Risk Management Board. The report went to the Risk Management Board in March and is brought to this committee for further oversight. Risk Management Board meets twice a year in October and March usually. The board has membership of the Chief Fire Officer, 2 members of the Fire Authority, Councillor Nelson and Councillor Parker, Anne-Marie Harrop from MIAA, our internal auditors, and 2 members from my team, myself, and a planning board.